What was the last book you read?
Just Do Something by someone I don't know.
Such a good book.
I know.
Kevin DeYoung.
Yes, that's the one.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin DeYoung.
It's a great book.
Have you read it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's good.
It's a good one.
I'm Katie Baker, and this is my story. I grew up in a small town in Nebraska with a really good family and a really good home. And I guess you could say my story mostly started when I was 4 years old. I remember my parents would come in every night to pray with us before we went to bed. And I just remember one night my dad randomly asking us if we knew why we prayed, and I admitted I didn't have any idea, honestly. And he just explained the gospel. He said God sent his son, Jesus, to come to earth to live a perfect life and to die on the cross for us so that we could have eternity with him if we accepted him into our heart. And then he asked me if I believed it or if I wanted to accept him into my heart, and I said, yeah, I do. And so that night I prayed the prayer, but it made no difference on my life at all at that point in my life. Fast forward a little bit, just in life, I remember growing up going to Awana, his kids, FCA, youth group, pretty much anything that went on around town, I did it. And I never was like a rebel. I never really went through a rebellious stage of going against my parents or doing things that they didn't know about. I was pretty much a good kid, but it's mostly because I was a people pleaser. But I remember I would go to conferences and retreats, and I'd always come back just on fire for the Lord. But that would only last a day or two until it was back into the normal life, and I felt the exact same way that I did before going to the retreat. And I don't think any of that changed until I was in high school. I remember the summer after my freshman year of high school, I'd gone on a missions trip with my youth group when we went to Kansas City. And I couldn't tell you what the theme of the missions trip was, but I remember it was the first time I'd ever heard the difference of knowing that there is a God and knowing God. God is someone who sent his son because he values us enough and he loves us enough that he wants that relationship with us. He wants us to spend eternity with him. But it isn't just so that we can go to heaven, it's instead so that we can have that relationship with him here on earth too, and to do life with God here. I remember that was the first time that really impacted my heart and made a difference on who I was and the life I was living. And it wasn't just doing good things because I was a people pleaser, it was doing these things because God had really, truly changed my heart. Knowing God and knowing him personally means that he'll continually be changing my heart to want to look more like him. There was one day we were challenged to go out with in groups of people, and we were supposed to find homeless people and take them out to eat. And I remember the point of this was so that we could share the gospel with them over a meal. But the restaurant we went to was so loud. And my whole group sat, so there was everyone around this table, and then me and these two guys. Everyone else was talking to each other, and it was just me and these two guys. I could so clearly hear God say, Katie, you need to talk to them about me. I remember thinking, ugh, please no. I was terrified, I did not want to do it. But the second I brought up God, I remember them going off about how great God was and how much they love God and how they couldn't imagine their life without God in it. And I remember being so confused. How could these guys who didn't have a home, who didn't have good clothing, they didn't know where their next meal was coming from, how did these guys understand more of who God was and what it looked like to have a relationship with God than I did, where I came from, a good home with a good family? It just didn't make sense to me. And it was there that God was revealing to me that God is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. He's unchanging. And our circumstances, whether they're good or bad, should never reflect how we see God. Our situations may reveal different things about God to us and different characteristics of him, but God is not changing. Our situations can change, but God does not. And that has been something that's been really, I think, comforting to me throughout my life too, is just knowing that God is true to his promises and he doesn't ever change. Coming back from that trip, I remember being on a high, but after that, it didn't fade back into the everyday life where I never thought about God. I remember after that trip continuing to dig into the Word and constantly being in prayer and talking to people about things I was learning about God. And it was so cool to realize that it wasn't fake and it wasn't because I wanted to be a good person anymore. It was because God was really changing who I was. It was so cool. And to have people tell me that they could see a difference in me, that's when you know that it's real and that you really do know God and let him change you. I guess fast forward to life today, I am constantly being reminded of different things about God, or being shown different things about who God is and his love for us. God has been teaching me a lot, even just through college, of everything is in God's timing. It's not our timing, and that's a good thing, honestly. I'm so thankful of things that didn't happen or didn't work out just because of they were not good. He's taught me a lot about friendships and people, and even though they're really good things and they're really good gifts from the Lord, that people will always fail us, but the Lord never will. The Lord is always true to his promises. And especially lately, God has been teaching me a lot about just how faithful he is, how much he loves us, how much he provides for us. And I even just look at the gifts he's given us of family and friends, and even the education we get to get here, and how undeserving we are of those gifts, but how easily we take advantage of those and put God to the side and focus more on those gifts. And so God's been revealing a lot to me of how we need to stop being so consumed with things of the world, but instead being focused on the one thing that really matters, which is him. This is a story of how Jesus has changed my life. Has he changed yours?